Hi. Thanks for coming. Good afternoon. I want to talk about what is the intention of this session. We want to explore some different aspects from the Git system. Maybe a lot of you are using Git now, but we want to homogenize, understand some advanced commands that usually we don't use, and we can improve different stages of our projects, our development. Usually, control system is a big product, a big tool. We have a lot of options. Now we can access Git in different flavors through different sites on the world. And sometimes we don't know they have different features. And we had to know what is these features to improve the use. I remember an example. When I saw a car, the new owner say me, "Oh, it's amazing the secret compartment the car has." What secret compartment? Where is? It's under the seat. I said, "Oh, no, it doesn't exist." He said, "Okay, come on, no, in the manual say it. It's here." No, that's the same. Sometimes we have little commands in some systems, in some tools that we don't know, and we had to use it. We are. Víctor is from Guatemala. He's recently a Java champion, a groundbreaking ambassador. He has several years developing Java. He's building mobile applications, backends. He's focusing a lot in the microservices with Payara Micro, another micro profile software. He's a job leader in Guatemala, and he's building a lot of communities and events through the time. I am Jorge Vargas. I am from Mexico. Now I am working on a mobile virtual network provider. We had a mobile career in Mexico. We like Virgin Mobile, for example. I'm working with Java since 1999. I am a little years in this business, and I like to improve a lot of the projects in Java backends projects. Is my specialty, and I like to share this kind of concepts. Sometimes say why you have to talk about Git. Well, Java is not only the main focus in the project, is how to manage and how to control this kind. Usually we have this graph. We can say some typical commands you use: the add, commit, the push. You remember you had 4 areas in the ecosystem, in the Git system. We have the remote repository. It's the repository where your code is stored. Usually, Git say it's a source safe control system, something like that. I don't like it to say it's a source code repository, because we can manage a lot of resources, documents, binary, something like that. It's really a repository to store and keep safely some resources. In the remote repository, because it's a distributed system, we can store it. We have different local repositories in different machines, maybe in the company on different teams across the world. And we have 2 special areas in front of us. The working directory is the area where you can do anything. You can erase, you can add, you can do a lot of things. Only you have to init this space to be controlled by Git. No? In the staging area is the is this area where you can store same changes, you can review it, maybe you can reset it, you can delete these changes, and generate different changes in the source code. You can add the resource from the working dir to the staging area, then commit it to the local repository. Finally, you can push these changes to the remote repository. In any time, you can reset, erase, delete the changes or resources in the staging area and the local area. Then if you want to update the changes in the remote repository, you have to use some fetch to update the local repository, or maybe the pull to refresh your working dir. Or if you want to begin to modify a repository, you are a clone. That's the normal uses that we are using in Git. why we say it's a system, Git is a system? Because we had a different components in this tool. We had users with different permissions. We have write permissions, read permissions. We have our users. Maybe you can control who accept or reject some changes. We had different management items in the repository. For example, branches tags. It's important to say now that some people say the branches are like the tags. The tags is a name when you are doing a lot of changes. It's very important to tag your changes in the code because sometimes you have to return to the past. Maybe you have to say, what is the change? Do you remember when the system was working last week? Yes, okay, well, we had to return that. Maybe the branches doesn't resolve this problem because the branches continues modifying. Then it's important to tag every major changes that you're doing. Maybe when some people left the team, maybe when a lot of people is joining to your teams, you had to do tags to identify where some things happen during the development. You can then compare in the history different changes through the tags, through the different branches you have. Branches, you have to see like different lines of production in the development of the code. And obviously we had in advanced systems in Git, we had notifications, we had different panel of control where you can authorize, maybe reject, or merge the changes from different teams. You remember the importance that you are doing some changes and your production system, it will not crash. If you are doing, every developer is pushing changes and they don't test at all these changes, maybe you have problems. No? What are the workflows? The workflows are some guides on some different people are doing during the time since it was created. This process, these guides, as how you have to do some different changes, maybe how do you push the change, how do you to update, how do you have to create the branches. It's a recommendation, obviously, is no the only way to do something like to create the development software. All the members in the team should know about how these workflows are doing, how you have to select one of them. Depending on the project, depending on the size of the team, depending on the size of the software you are creating, you have to select a workflow. Not all workflows are the same for all the projects you have. There are different. You can read in different sites, different workflows that we select only 4 of them to talk about. After this talk, we will see an example of how to use those commands and how you can apply in your development.
So, okay, so we are basically doing this. He's just explaining the theory behind the Git implementation, and after that, I will demonstrate with the biggest hello world in the conference how to use properly these commands. So, in a couple of minutes. Okay.
Yeah. Then the centralized workflow, for example, you have the master. The master, when you have all the code you are working. You have one user, 2 users, any user you need, and all user is developing some changes, some features in your software. They finish the test, obviously, these changes, and they push it in the master branch. After that, maybe in the same time, maybe not, there are another users developing other changes, other features, and they're working indeed to push it then. That is the common use from Git. And this kind of workflow is usually for new Git users because the developers were using maybe CVS or SVN or some another source control. They don't understand what is the process to do the synchronization between the remote and the local repositories. Then usually this is the model. You have to be very careful because obviously all people is doing changes in the master branch, and it's not very recommended because you can override some changes that is not very good. Usually this workflow is for SVN users migrating from the traditional source control to Git, and only you have to change in your mind the name of the trunk to master and that's all. No? Be careful. It's useful for small teams, or maybe if you are a single user, 2 users developing something, is the easy way to do it. We have the feature branch. In this case, we had to think we are developing a software with different teams, maybe, small teams. We had to implement different features in your software. You had the master branch. Then we had a feature that is development. One team is doing that. They are developing, testing, pushing, doing a lot of changes. Maybe they don't push to the master branch, but they can continue developing. And you had an emergency fixture, for example. Maybe you had to fix something, and you create another branch. This branch is doing the other change. The change is pushed in the master branch, and so on. No? You can continue doing different features. It is a good option because you have to increase the different features in your software. Usually, you are incremental development. That is the way you can use it. No? This is the feature branch. What is the advantage of this workflow? You can use a strong branch use. This is the base for another workflow we have in Git, and really encourage collaboration because maybe you had to request merge, and some people had to check in a peer review or another kind of review, and you had to authorize the changes are merged in the master. The next one is the Git Flow. This is the traditional, was created by Vincent Driesen, and say how you can do the best way to develop software with Git. In this case, you have to focus not in features instead of in releases. You had different releases. You had different releases in your code. These releases is on the master, and you create the main line for development. This branch is putting the different changes in the branch, and the features and adding to the branch developed is not in the master branch. After you finish all the changes are testing in integrated tests and something like that. You can integrate these changes of develop to the master branch. What happens if you had a bug, you had a patch to do in emergency state? You had to create another branch, hot fixes or patches or bug fixes. In these cases, you develop these changes in this branch, you hot fixes. Once you approve the change, you can put it in the branch, and you can continue the development, and you don't affect any change in the line of development to the master branch. If you need another change, or maybe the business say I need a new feature to put in the master branch, you have to put another branch, and you can combine. That is the more useful workflow you can use, and it's important when you are doing releases. And the last one is a focus for big projects. For example, open source project, because you have different teams across the world. These teams, maybe there are many developers that are in different time, in different places, and you have to collaborate, and you have to avoid the software is crashing. And then you have the official project. Maybe you are using the Git Flow or the feature workflow, well, any of them, and then you have to clone all this repository like a fork, not like a simple clone, like a fork. This fork is doing the same model like Git Flow workflow, and if you need to approve some changes, you have to send in a request to merge to the repository owner. This repository owner says, okay, I can deny or can approve the changes. If you finish these changes, you have to pull all the changes that are in the central repository to local repository. Recommendations: there is no workflow to rule then all the projects you have. You have to analyze what is the best workflow you need. Business models influence a lot what workflow you have to use. It's important. Don't forget you have to have a real working version in the master branch, because all time have to compile and to test and to pass all the tests. It's important to remember you have to create short-lived branches, because sometimes you create a branch, the branch is the branch, And maybe sometimes we have to forget the master because the branch is in the current line is the same branch that we created, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and is the branch. No, you have to create a branch, you have to create a small time branches because this branch is only for one intention. Maybe it's a feature, maybe it's a hotfix, I don't know. But you have to finish the branch, integrate with maybe with the master branch or another thing that you need, but you don't have to have long time branches. It's important then. You have to use good names, remember, like you are programming, you have to use good names, you have to identify the name of the branches easily, and obviously you have to store this name and date in a document, an online document. All the members of the team could see or review what is the change, what is the name of the branch, what is the hashtag that you have, and you can return or you can review these changes. Obviously, the message in the commit should be very, very meaningful. Okay? We can review some advanced commands. Really, there are no advanced commands, but it's useful if you combine these commands. The first one is git stash. Imagine you are doing something in your code. You have to do different things because maybe it's an emergency. Maybe you remember you had to resolve some item or some ticket in your ticket system control. Then you maybe have to do a copy, do the change, and return after. It's a useful command because you can do something, return, you don't have to do commit, it's a local change, and you can review that you are doing, maybe you have to push it, it's right. If not, you can erase it, that's all, okay? Okay, the next command is better to see in the practice because maybe we had a lot of theory here. You can review the presentation after. Víctor, we continue with the demonstration, okay?
Okay, so I think I should turn this over here. Okay, so first question, how many of you are actually using Git in their development teams? So most of you are using Git. So I'm basically just skipping some basic theory about how to integrate Git in your teams. And we will be focusing about the culture and the possible workflows that you can integrate. So let me do a second question. How many of you are using some kind of graphical user interface for your Git implementation? You know, that's pretty common. I am also a college professor, and I've noticed in my students that they really enjoy working with Git because of the distributed nature. But on the other side, most of them are just downloading the source tree implementation or the GitHub client. That it is pretty cool, actually. I use it on a daily basis. But in this presentation, I will be focusing my contributions to the Git repository, just using the command line in order to show you some useful comments, and after that, to show you how could you diagnose what is happening with your repository. So let's create a repository. So I'm going to use a plain old bash shell. Let me increase the size of the font. Oh, too much. OK, so first of all, I want to create my actual repository. In Git, you have to create a directory, just that. So let's say OC1 demonstration. Let's go inside. So far, it's not a Git repository, so how do you start it? Git init. And that's it. Now it's a repository. So with this command, you are enabling the actual work in the repository. And the main idea about doing a commit in Git is to actually create the files. After you create the file, you have to add the file to the repository. And after you add the repository, you became aware of there is a staging area. After the staging area is complete, you actually do the commit. So we will be creating a file. Let's create hello.java. And this will be a public class hello. OK. OK, that's the most complex source code I've been adding so far. OK, so how do you compile this? You will say javac hello.java. It will compile or not? What do you think? This is a mostly Java conference. What do you think about it? OK, let's give it a shot. OK, it compiled. So basically, now I have a working program. It doesn't do anything, but it is a part of the repository. If you console, I have the source code file and the class file. So I'm first creating my first commit. First, I have to add the actual source code. OK, and if you do a git status, this is the staging area. So you have basically one file in the staging area, and after that, you do a git commit that message, the biggest hello world in history. Smiley face. Oh, there is no smiley face. OK. OK, that's the commit. So how do you check the actual status of your Git repository? You say, well, git status. There is a lot of message. I do have this kind of compiled file, so I have to ignore it because you have to add to your repository only source code, nothing binary, nothing like class files or binary dependencies. So let's add with a git ignore file. And I will ignore so far hello.class. OK. I will check again the status of the repository. Now I have a git ignore file, but notice that the class file itself is not anymore considered by the Git implementation. So how do I create another commit? The same workflow. Git add, git ignore, git commit, .m. OK, ignoring .class. So if you start to do a lot of git status, it says the working tree is clean. How do you check the actual, or how many commits have you done so far? You do a git log. And so far it seems OK, but how many commits do you have in your repositories? 100, 1,000, 200. 1,000 is a pretty common number of commits in a Git repository. If you have this kind of big teams doing commit after commit after commit, you will have a lot of commits. So let's reduce a little bit the output of the terminal. So we do a git log -- one line, grab all. I know it's just a list of commits. It looks more like the GitHub client. In fact, the GitHub client is executing this kind of comments again and again and again in order to give you a useful implementation. So in here we have a hello world implementation that it is also considered as a part of the repository. I also added some ignored class files. And now I have to create a feature branch. And how do you create a feature branch? The main idea behind the feature branch is that you actually are working with other peers. You could probably doing some front-end development, and other people could be doing back-end development. So the first thing is to check out a new branch in order to do something useful. And you have to use meaningful names, as Jorge said. So I will say this will be a hello world calculator. So I will call this the addition branch. OK, I am in a new branch. If you want to check it, you could say git branches, sorry. And I am in the addition branch. OK, so let's code a little bit more. Hello.java. And we will add a pretty complex method. So let's say public integer sum int a, int b. So return a plus b. OK? So let's do first, I need to add it to the staging area. And after that, I need to commit to the staging area. OK, let's clear a little bit the history of comments. And again, I could check the status of the repository. So git log -- one line -- graph. And now I want to include all the branches. Grab. OK, so what's happening here? I created a first feature in which I am just basically adding a plus b. But I am working in the feature branch. So if I want to do another feature in order to create a new concept, a new implementation in my class, I have to go back to master, Okay, now I am master, and I actually have to check out subtraction. Okay, I will implement the subtraction here. See that the class file is empty because I am starting again from master. So let's add this, public int subtraction, int A, int B, and the actual operation. So return E minus B, and that's it. So how do you check that this works? You could compile it, javac hello.java. It is working, and you add it to your source version control. Git add hello.java, git commit. I'm doing it fast, but if you do commit, you will be inside BI. How do you go? How do you exit from BI? That's a tricky question. Calling queue. All right. Okay. So let's say I'm now subtracting. Yeah, that was a tricky question. Okay, so let's check again the status of the repository. And let's see what happens. So you could consider that the master branch is the production branch because you have to integrate in master. It doesn't matter which workflow do you choose, only that kind of software that it's considered stable. So in fact, I have the stable part of my workflow inside master. I've done 2 features in 2 different branches, and now I have to integrate them back to the master in order to do a proper implementation of my calculator hello world. So let's go back to master. And now I am going to do a merge. First from addition. OK, that went fine. And after that, from subtraction. What do you think will happen when I'm trying to do this? It will do a conflict. So the first nightmare when you are using Git is that if you got a conflict, what you have to do. So if you open the file, hello.java, it looks like this. And I don't know, I do remember the first time that I used Git in order to use it. I was using NetBeans, actually. NetBeans has this really cool merge feature. But when I went to the real file, the real source code file, it was like this. But this is basically just marking I have conflicts between lines. And this will be probably happening to you a lot and a lot and a lot. So what you have to do, you have to compare that the head commit, it is the last commit that has entered to the local repository, has to be merged manually with the subtraction repository. So how do you do the merge? It will be very difficult. Like this. OK, so I did the merge. And that's it. OK, let's test if this compiles properly. OK, it indeed compiles. And the final step will be to check again the status. I have merged this implementation into master. So if you check what is missing from the repository is the hello.java. So I will add the file. And let's say I'm integrating the operations. OK, so this is like the regular thing that you do with Git. But the final step, it is always missing. You have actually a Git repository that now has 3 branches. But some branches have been already integrated into the master branch. So you have to delete them, just this. So in order to clean my implementation, we will say, OK, git -g, addition, git branch, and subtraction. OK, let's check again. I know the repository is free. So this is the proper way to integrate by using feature branches. So you always maintain the stable software into the master branch, but you could do it in a very different way if you use Git workflow. So what's the main idea behind Git workflow? Let's go back to the presentation. In Git workflow, or in, let's go, no, it doesn't go. Oh. Okay, so what we just did in the repository was to maintain the master branch as the stable branch. But if you want to go on if you have like 3, 4, 5 developers in your team, you will probably be better by using Git Flow. So what's the main idea of Git Flow? You also maintain the stable branch in the master branch, but you will be working not on the master branch, but on a develop branch. So what do you win with this? If you are a developer that you want to work with some particular feature, you will start developing from the development branch, and you will do 1, 2, 3, 4 commits, and you will be integrating in the development branch. So you have a clear separation between the production system and the testing system. So it is common to integrate Git Flow workflows inside continuous development, continuous integration, and continuous delivery services. And the continuous integration service will be executing the compiling process over the development branch. So it will be a safer area to break things. You will be integrating probably daily inside the development area, in the develop branch, and after that, you could create, or you could be creative in adding feature branch. So it is basically a combination. It is the master branch that is always stable, and you have to tag the versions that you are adding to your control version system, but you will be integrating in a development area. So I could use my repository, and I could say, well, I am now in the master branch, so let's check out the develop. So now I am in the developer branch. So the rules are this: never delete the master branch and never delete the development branch. If you delete these 2 branches, you are actually deleting the production system and the testing system. So it isn't a good idea. That's it. So once you are in the development branch, you could actually start another feature for which you will be creating another branch. So let's check out a new branch like product. Let's go back to my hello world, and we will be adding a product implementation. Okay, product E and B. I'm sure that this is right. Let's compile it. I know I have a new feature over a feature branch that has to be integrated in the development branch, and that development branch will hold the integrations between many features. And when we are ready to publish something to the production system, we will be integrating all of the new features on the master branch. So let's first integrate this. I'm going to combine the comments. So let's add the hello Java. Let me clear this. Hello Java. And git commit -m adding the product. Okay, let's check again the status of the repository. So now I have the master branch. It is clear. I have the development branch, and I have the product branch. Once I have this stable feature, I have to create another feature. So let's go back to master. And let's check out a new branch. This will be concatenation. Yes, I have to do it from the development because the development is the integration area. So you are starting in the unstable phase of the software. You are actually creating features always over development. That's the main idea of Git Flow, that you will be breaking things in development. The software will be being integrated over the develop branch commits, but in the end, you are not pushing anything unstable onto master until you are ready, and you are ready to say, well, develop is enably stable. You will go to master and publish to their production system. So we will do the concatenation. Okay, concatenation, we will concat this. Let's do the BI. So now I have concat. That is basically E and B, and this is E plus B. Okay, so let's check again. I am in the concatenation branch. I am adding this new feature to the concatenation branch. So I am implementing a way more difficult concat. That's it. So now let's check again the status of the repository. So master has already the integration of the stable features that are addition and subtraction. So far, master is even with develop because I'm not integrating something into develop. I have to integrate my two feature branches. So what's the idea? I will go back to develop, and I will say git merge concatenation and git merge product. So it will be a conflict. Do you want to bet? OK, it is a conflict. So just do like hello.java. And there is a particularly simple conflict that you have to fix in a proper way. So if you check the status of the repository, I have to add Java, and I am integrating in the test area. OK, so let's check again with my whole tree. So now see this. I do have indeed published some stable version in the master branch. But I've been doing some kind of development in feature branches, and I've been integrating all of the features over the development area. So as the final steps, I have to always be cleaning the repository by deleting all those branches that have been already integrated in the development branch. So let's say git branch -d product and git branch -d concatenation. OK? I could check again the status, clear. So how do I publish to the product? How do I push it to the continuous integration system? I will integrate develop into the master branch. So now I have this kind of control. So how do I do this in my team? I have a small team of software developers. We are basically consultants, and people like junior developers or mid developers, they don't have access to master. There are actually just only 2 people that has access to master, because if you have the access to master, you have the power to push the implementation, and this code goes directly to production. So the power of doing a proper workflow in Git Flow is because you can separate the responsibility of managing the entire repository. You could give the freedom to your developers in order to allow them to do this kind of things, to do the freedom to implement 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 commits over, let's say, a playground area, a sandboxed area. They integrate to develop, and you will be running the continuous integration system over development. So when you are ready, we are going to production. So what will be the logical step? First, we gotta go back to master, and I am gonna merge develop. So what do you think? I will have some kind of conflict or not? OK, there is a no. Anybody thinks that I will going to have a conflict? No, basically not, because in the history, this kind of commits have been done in a proper way. So I mostly resolve all of the conflicts over the development branch. So when I integrate back develop to master, it's a fast forward. Basically, all has been integrated in the development area, and now I am ready to do a production launch. So let's again analyze the repository. And now I am ready master and develop are even, so I have a new version of my software, and the final step will be to add a tag over my current implementation. So git tag. Okay, that's it, and I just released a version of software. So as you saw from this presentation, it is basically Git. How do you go beyond add, commit, and push? If you do only add, commit, and push, you are basically using Git as a subversion control system or a CVS control system. But with a proper workflow, you could receive the power from the Git workflow implementation. I especially like this Git workflow, so I just demonstrated a couple of implementations on how could you integrate properly the software and the source code and the source code files especially. So we have another alternatives for these workflows. We could do some proper commands like stash, in which you will be quickly saving the actual implementations, but we don't have enough time. So we created this complete graphical guide in order to give you the advanced commands. We will be publishing this over Twitter. So I think we have 5 minutes. So I have time for one question. Anybody wanna do a question or something? Okay. Okay, so basically the lines over there, we're just dividing the previous commit, one commit that you are integrating, that it is with the complete number, the complete hash number, and the head commit in which you are integrating your commit. The conflict came because you basically did changes in the same line. So this is I just deleted because I was sure that all of the code should have been included in the source code file, but it was just for that. Okay, any other question? Okay, there is a question in there.
So apart from creating a tag, what else has been done to make it go beyond the add commit?
Well, the tag itself is not a complex question and not a complex concept. To go beyond is because Git, Linus Torvalds has this phrase that it says Git is the best tool that you will be using, but if you use it properly. So because you could actually get a great power from the Git implementation, but you have to select the proper workflow. So for us, the go beyond the commit, add, and push is when you choose a proper workflow and you have this. It's like the DevOps idea. In DevOps, you have a lot of tools that you have to implement in order to release software faster. But in the end, the difference will be the culture that you implement in your team. So for us, the difference is the culture that you're implementing while selecting a proper workflow like this one. Okay, any other question? Okay, there is a question here.
Can you talk about any other like web-based implementations like GitLab? Are there alternatives to GitLab out there for higher level integration?
Okay, so if you're talking about web clients, you have basically the private ones that are GitHub and Bitbucket. I actually use Bitbucket because of the graphical user interaction. It's pretty good, and because this Atlassian thing that they have the complete pipeline in order to take your Git repository and to create a continuous integration and continuous delivery system. That's one of my favorites. If you want to implement this on premise, you will be probably using GitLab. There are other clients, but in the open source sector, GitLab is probably the best. So I will say, try Bitbucket. It is also a good Git repository manager, but if you are doing something on premise or you want to implement something on your servers, try GitLab. It will be the best. Okay. So I think we are okay. There is a question in there.
So there's any difference between merge and pull? Like I use Bitbucket too, and maybe we use pull requests all the time, right? So we always pull from other branches. Is that a difference between merge and pull?
Okay, so when you use Git, we are basically using a local repository. But when you do a pull, you are actually pulling the changes from the remote. So the Git graphical user interface is hiding that process for you because you are basically doing a pull to retrieve the changes, and after that, the tool is automatically merging the changes. So pull is just retrieve the changes, and merge is give me the possibility to integrate the changes in my source code and to do the proper fixing like I did in the demonstration. Okay. So, any other question? Okay, there. I think it's a question here. Okay.
I don't know if you mentioned the rebase. I might have missed it, but do you?
Okay, the rebase, we wanted to include it, but we didn't have time.
The question was, do you have any lessons on when you prefer rebase?
Okay, rebase is like, this is the best explanation that I found about rebase. So in rebase, you are basically rebasing. That's where the name came from. So you basically are creating 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 commits, and you, instead of merging, you are rebasing or changing the base of the actual branch. So instead of merging the PR implementation to the master branch, I will do a rebase in which I will take the entire history of commits and I will do a proper rebase inside the destination branch. Why I do prefer this? Because I am a big fan of rebase, but because I am not creating this kind of buzzword between I am merging this branch with this branch with this branch. When you do a proper rebase, you are creating a properly and cleaner log. That's my opinion. So when you rebase, you took this branch, and if all works properly, you're just pulling the branch over the actual destination. So that's the concept.
Suppose you have master and you have develop.
Yep.
And it looks to me like develop goes on a very long time, and it can diverge significantly from master. And master may have hot fixes, and then you get merge conflicts.
No, but the thing with hot fixes, actually, when you do hot fixes, you are constantly merging that to develop and master. That's the proper way of doing it. Yeah, because hot fixes have to go to master because it's the production branch. But if you want to integrate them proactively, you have to integrate it also to the develop branch. That's the.
And update you develop.
Yeah, I know. But in that kind of situations, I do prefer merge, because in merge I have manual control. So that's it. I do prefer rebase in order to maintain a proper log. But when you have to fix something, just go with merge. It will be easier for your life, you know. At least for me it is. So final question, I think.
Is it possible to delete a large file from history?
It is possible to delete. Yeah, it is, but it will be. You will have to force the push, because if you have this big history, you have to forge and overwrite that commit. You could do an amend to forge that overwritten commit. You will have to manage the proper merge and retrieval operations, but in the end you will do it. Git is pretty able to do that. Okay, so final question.
Yeah, so suppose you change the name of the branch, and when you maybe for the case sensitive, and then if you get a git block, what is the best way to remediate that issue? Because
Okay, if you want to change the name or the commit.
like the case is sensitive, if you change the name of the branch, is it good to change the name of branch or delete? Otherwise, delete and create a new name.
Oh, well, the proper way to do it, at least in my opinion, it will be to protect the master and develop branch. That should be protected from any other developer. If you do proper namings if you don't do proper namings of branches, anyway, these kind of branches will be deleted eventually. So it is fine to just delete it, because it will be integrated after a couple of times or commits into the development branch. So it is safer to do. I've seen so many bad names in my team. They just once they created this branch called Pony, and it was, hey guys, what are you doing? Why did you name this Pony? Oh, because it was cool. It isn't cool. I didn't have this kind of policy, but anyways, I just deleted the branch, I get rid of it, and I integrated the source code to the implementation. That it was actually a pretty good implementation of that we were doing at that time. So it is safe to delete that kind of branches, because they are being integrated in the development branch anyway.
In this case, it's an important branch. You can change the name with amend. That you can maintain the policies about naming.
So to go beyond, maintain policies, maintain a clear control over development and master, check alternative workflows. I just saw 2 of the possible workflows. If you are contributing to open source, you will be always hitting with forking repositories, but that's it. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. And sorry for English, but we are not English native speakers. So thanks for attending. And
Thank you.
Okay, have a nice conference.